All right, well, welcome again to Wired for Bass, and this is tonight. We're going to have Jeremy Dehart from the Wild West Bass Trail and from the Apex, and we're going to be talking a lot about what's going on in the West and where he's going to be with this, and just hopefully there's a lot of information and some questions we get answered and things we get asked. So, Jeremy, thanks for coming in, and thanks for being with us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem at all. This is be a great opportunity to really showcase what we're trying to do in the West, build the entire program so that anglers have something to fish for, and our youth can advance further into their desired fishing careers as well.
Yeah, I noticed that you have the, it's one of the things I wanted to talk about too, was we were talking about it's the high school, right? It's a high school level that you're starting at, or is it?
Actually, it's a youth series. So
it's just a youth series.
Yeah, 8th to 8th grade, and then all the way up from 9th to 18. So we're trying to branch out there and provide an opportunity to get our anglers, their youth, involved in our sport. That is the backbone of it as we move forward. And there's a lot to be learned. There are a lot of kids. We've seen some success down here in the Arizona area with the youth series, and so we feel that that's going to be a great opportunity to bring that forward. I know Monica Herney and her group have been very successful and what they've been doing. This will just be a unique little twist to what we'll provide for them, and hopefully incorporate participation from those that are already established as well.
Wow. So now, is that going to lead to anything for them? Is it going to be a totally separate event, or is it going to, hey, you can make it up to, fishing some of the other events?
Yeah, Wild West Youth Series will be based on its own program. We will generally follow a team event. We will have some open events for the kids. There's a lot of parents that are encouraged and excited about the plans that are in place. And so we've got a great staff that is operating that. They're well seasoned. There's a lot of different things that have been done on the junior bassmaster level in the Arizona area. So they've been successful with probably anywhere from 30 to 40 teams, wow. Volunteer groups, those type of things at every event. And that's in Arizona. So we know that the population increase, those that are throughout the West Coast and in states surrounding that we hope to bring to the table as well.
Wow, that's impressive. I didn't realize you had that much success already with it.
Yeah,
that's very encouraging. This is talking about you're in Arizona and everything else, and that's one of the questions I really wanted to talk about is the Apex, the Wild West, all this. What do you see this? Where do you see this going as far as, let's talk a little bit about the Apex, because the Apex is probably the one that I think is going to be the biggest game changer. I'm kind of hoping it is. I want it to, it's where do we're starting right now. You're doing a lot of the lakes around here. The first season, you just did John Day, you did Almanor, and now you're going to Amador, right?
It's Comanche.
Oh, it's Comanche now. That's right. I got
Amador got a little bit too low for what we're able to do.
Okay, so now it's going to be Comanche. Yeah. That's probably been really hard this year to deal with all that stuff. I know. I know some of our tournament. I made the championship this year for Wild West for the teams.
Great.
And it was like, oh, great. Are we going to be it? Oh no, we're going to the Delta. No, we're going to be it. We're going to be it. We're going to be it. It's like, and Don Pedro. So okay, and we're hoping Don Pedro stays with enough water to get in there too.
Yeah.
So.
It's basically you have to have a plan of attack and a backup to that plan, and maybe even a backup to that backup. So it keeps you on your toes. There's a lot of changing parts and pieces this year. We thought last year was interesting.
Yeah.
We had a few other variables thrown our way this year, so that we react and plan and prepare for it that way.
Yeah, it's definitely a Western thing, and it's we'll deal with it forever, I'm sure. But
yeah.
So let's get back a little bit to the Apex. The Apex is this new, it's a new professional series out here. One of the things that I looked at, when when Ray Scott started the Bassmaster, he had this vision. Hey, we're going to make this. And he, I don't know if he ever totally saw it come to fruition, but he saw it pretty darn close come to fruition, with what Bassmaster has become and what it was. And now you have the MLF. Do you think that the Wild West is going to be one of those, or I mean, the Apex is going to be one of those groups that's going to become on that level, but Western?
That is our goal, and also to establish somewhat of a new twist and footprint to that.
Okay.
Do I feel that that's our competition? No. I feel that that is something that we can look up to. Those established season series that have been well beyond successful. But I feel that Apex will be its own entity and create its own path. But it'll be a path that we can bring the West Coast angler along with us. I guess we could start from the kind of the beginning, and maybe this will flow with some of your questions. But we've always, with Wild West, tried to introduce something new and something engaging within the community of the fishing in the West Coast. We have some of the best anglers that are out there. A lot of techniques are developed in the West and implemented in other areas. And some of our anglers, some of the best anglers on those series that you mentioned, are from the West Coast. So it gives us a good platform to start. And we have some of those anglers that are interested in coming and participating at our level, and do already. Jared Littner's, we've got a few others that are hoping to get to that point in time, and we welcome them. But we've always wanted to provide, and I have, with the history of the marine industry, and that's where I started, was out of a tackle shop as a Lucas Oil representative, trying to develop a unique type of event structure. And it started from there. We had a few Lucas Oil Opens. We tested some Pro-Ams. We aligned ourselves with some unique industry partners. We did a lot of different things in that capacity, and moved on and established with the previous ownership of Wild West Bass Trail. And at that point in time, in the end of 17, we wanted to say, okay, we're gonna try to build on this. We have a complete following. Our numbers increase. What do we do to retain and increase new participation? And so, it was kayak, it was college, it was different teams, SoCal teams, and everything always kept with the thought in mind that we're going to bring the Wild West influence to those areas. Yes, we will have to build it, but I think we've gained the track record to be able to be consistent and actually be a desired location to fish in our organization. So with that being said, Apex was developed, and we developed with a lot of different West Coast, as we discussed, unique hurdles. Okay, if this happens here, we got to do it this way. And it kind of put into a unique twist where our anglers experienced it in an invitational that we had at Arlington. And they experienced it at Almanor for the first two events. And not only did communities gain interest, but we've been having those communities call us, hey, can you bring an Apex Cup event here? Can you do this? Can you do that? And it opens the door and a lot of opportunity. We said at the beginning, this year is kind of a trial run for everything that we're trying to do. Is it going to have everything exact? No. Is it going to be a major stepping stone? Absolutely. And we know that through all of this, the variables that we've encountered will only make it stronger. And those type of things brought in a specific format. Okay, if we have this, we have 6-hour windows in California in the summer months, those type of things. So we knew that the first year we needed to keep it in California so that we could be closely monitoring the growth, the changes, all these little parts and pieces. And we established Tourney X within the program. It's got its own specific category on the Tourney X system. the measuring system. So there's so many analytics that we can provide with that, and what we've started to develop, that it does gain and retain interest from somebody or viewer or a fan looking on.
Yeah, that's a great point. There was a lot. Almanor's basically been the first one that people could really pay attention to, really watch, get the whole analytics on it. And it was amazing. It was super fun to watch. You could see who was catching fish, who was just getting weight. And that made it, it made a difference. That is kind of leads into a good question on that. Was what was when did you kind of have that decision to, we're going to add the weight, plus we're going to have, you can qualify with the weight, or you can also qualify with numbers? Because that is a neat and interesting twist. And I've talked to a couple of other anglers, and most of them have been really excited about it and really happy with it. So where did that kind of come from? Because that's something, that's not going on anywhere else.
Well, I think it was the actual, okay, if we're going to establish a measuring system within Apex, we need to make that count. And so how do we make that count? And how do we make it where it's entertaining? Because this is not the cap of what we're trying to do. I can tell you analytic numbers on just Tourney X alone for Almanor was over 36,000 people chimed in during that 3-day, where we didn't even really announce it. And that's been strategic. We've kind of just come in, hit it with some media, and back up a little bit, and let our media content afterwards do some talking. And at that point in time, for an average of 4.5 minutes per each one of those 36,000, I thought that that number was strong with just slightly advertising it. So it gave us an idea of saying, okay, we're on to something here.
We've paired one of the most iconic hulls in the history of bass boats with a proven lineup of trusted accessories. We're bringing you best-in-class value and performance, leaving others in your wake. Turnkey value, turnkey performance. The Pantera 2 is an overachiever in the 19-foot category. Once you hit the throttle, you'll feel the rush, and there's no looking back.
Not only are we developing a new format, but it did. To go back to your question, it provided an opportunity to reward those that may not be on the hog, but may be just consistently in an area where 14 inches or more is going to be helpful for them to advance through the series.
Right. And then you guys did something that I have long wished that somebody would do, and that was you zero those weights after everything was all said and done. Last day is zero.
What better way, right? I mean, it's anybody's game.
Yeah, once you qualify, I am a big proponent of, okay, now level the playing field and make everything zero and say, do it again. Go take the luck out of it, take the build up out of it, take the, we got a 17-pound lead on the next guy. Nah, you got zero. You're the same as everybody else. Can you continue to do it? Can you do it again?
Right.
And you saw that some people could and some people couldn't. And at the Almanor event, it out popped Austin Wilson. He had a great event. He had he was catching them, but he was he just poured it on that last day. And then back over to the John Day, which was, I think that was one of those events that was just really interesting to watch, and how that played out to where, you guys were, hey, we're going to go Columbia River. All of a sudden it's like, you ain't getting on the Columbia River. We'll take it to the John Day River. And these guys are, they learned, right? It was so interesting to see, because some people knew, some people didn't know that there was largemouth in there. And then all of a sudden, boom, here's these largemouth. And these guys are like, what the heck is going on here?
Yep. Changes the mentality of that.
Yeah.
Changes the approach.
The whole not having 30 days off, and you can't see the water, you can't touch the water, you can't be around it, all this stuff. It's like, that is amazing, and it's great, and I think that's good. Where do you want it to go? How many states do you want this to be in? Do you always want it to be west? Do you always want to keep it here? What are you kind of looking at as far as the states you want to keep it in?
Well, like that kind of answer goes back to the questions that we were talking about earlier, and some of the statements is, I want to branch out of California. Yes, but there's a lot of variables within California and California waters. But we have, the drought, We have low water levels. We basically have a river system that we're able to operate on. That is the sure thing. Everything else is kind of like we can cross our fingers and hope it works until we get some rain and those type of things. And we were shut down in certain areas of COVID. So it kind of put a perspective of alignment of where we are with the lakes that we have, the resources that are available. And we want to make sure that we can not only put out a strong series that would generate additional interest and participation. And we already draw from 11 Western states on our series, whether it be Wild West or teams. But it's an opportunity for not only apex anglers, and that's the pinnacle of what we're trying to achieve. We want to make sure that our anglers can go out there and be competitive with their skill set anywhere. And so we have unique formats and unique opportunities at any body of water we go to. Can they change on the fly? Thought process, transitioning to a specific body of water like the John Day from the Columbia River because of the winds and safety reasons, and that it teaches us, and it builds an opportunity for the angler to get better. But it teaches us as an organization that, okay, we just experienced that. Maybe that was not a purpose or on purpose, but it gave us an opportunity to learn something from it. We can take that concept that we just experienced and implement it into something else. And so it always will keep it interesting, innovative. And we have a lot of people that work with me, myself, behind the scenes to really be creative, to put a great piece out there. So I want it to go to the limit it can, but I am very much sincere to the West Coast. That's where we started. That's where we want it to be. Does that mean that we won't do a one-off thing somewhere here or there, or does that mean we're not going to get creative once in a while? Can't tell you that that's a no. I would like to do that. I think that gives them all an opportunity, but we are sincere and dedicated to the West Coast. Okay.
So one of the other things that is kind of there is right now you have, I think it's 30, is it 30 is all you have
33.
Invited? 33.
Yep.
So you have 33 anglers next year. Guys who fish the, actually you've got the Pro-Am getting ready to wrap up. You've got the Columbia River coming up with the Pro-Am, and that will give you, how many anglers are you going to take from that and add to the tournament?
Well, there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of creativity that we can get with that, but probably the goal will be around 50 total anglers. So that would provide 10 plus 7. I feel that that's the next step. Are there more out there? Oh, I'm sure. But I don't ever foresee this ever going over 65. In fact, we won't let it ever go over 65. But we're gonna be at that building phase. 50 is a manageable number. We've got a lot of media content. We've got a lot of different things going on with it. And so as we build this, that's the next step, 50. Okay, we're going to bring in 33 seasoned, and there's whole processes in place for this. We're going to funnel some out after 2 years, and then they're going to have to requalify. And so there's a lot of different things and parts to this, but yeah.
I think that's an important deal right there to add is because there are going to be plenty of people who are deciding, hey, the apex is where I want to be. There's young guns coming up that are that don't. I had a conversation with James Watson, and he talked about guys coming out here, and he doesn't want to come out here because he doesn't want to travel all this way. It works both ways. There's a lot of the guys out here, they don't want to travel all the way back there just so they can spend 3 or 4 years burning up $70,000 or $80,000 in entry fees to try to scratch out maybe 5% of that back. So with this being out here, the apex being out here, there is some opportunity for these young guns, and having a rotation and hearing that you're going to say, yeah, you know what, you're not up to snuff, you're going to fall out. It's certainly, if you're I'm guessing you're going to pick a level and say, okay, the bottom 10 leave and the top, next 10 come in, kind of thing. And then you've got to qualify I'm hoping it comes every year. I don't know what you're going to do every year, every 2 years, or however you're going to work it for now. But I think that's an important step. And I'm glad you said it. So I think maybe people can kind of understand that that will happen in the future. And so for right now, you're talking basically 50, and
Yeah.
that leaves you, I think that leaves you a really good opportunity because I've seen what you're doing, and I don't know if you're going to continue it, but I mean, you're on Lake Comanche, you're on Lake Almanor, you're the Columbia could handle way more, but being at those levels, you can go to some of these smaller lakes, you can go to some of these smaller venues and these smaller towns that really need the
Mm-hmm.
little bump, and bringing the media attention, bringing all the anglers to see these lakes. And I've talked to a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of them, and they're like, I've never even seen, when it was Amador, it was like, I've never seen Amador. When it was Almanor, I've never seen Almanor. Great, go see what you can do. And they really showed what they could do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's very interesting. Do you really feel like you're going to try to keep that going, as far as sticking with smaller lakes, maybe staying off of the guys who only fish Clear Lake, or really good on
Yeah.
the Delta, really good on Clear Lake? You're going to take them to places and say, if you're really good, show us you're really good.
Yeah. We're gonna take the pros out of the comfort zone. They're gonna be, testing their skills on different bodies of water. And you hit the nail on the head. The opportunities of being outside of California with some of our events, whether it be Arizona, Nevada, SoCal, Columbia River, and Idaho, and all those places that we have an opportunity to go to. That's what makes it strong, gives it a good backbone, and the versatility that it provides the anglers to reach is what we're hoping to achieve. And so, yeah, those bodies of water, the community support, it all is centered around unknown areas. And with that comes some unique opportunities where we can say, hey, we're going here, but just kidding, we may go somewhere else. And so we can do a lot of different things. So yeah,
That's it. I've seen that, and a lot of the guys that I've talked to have said that. They've said, you can't really, I guess, set your feet in stone and go, okay, we're going to go to, here. And because they could call us next week and say, oh, never mind, we're going to go here now. So I think that adds a complete, I don't know, it's just an element of surprise, maybe a little bit of don't do a bunch of research on a lake that you might be going to. You're going to have to really, that 30 days is going to mean something. 30-day off limits of wherever is going to mean something.
And we have to be cautious of that too. I mean, we have to pre-plan and have the permits and the lake location secured. And that's, we have to be cautious of that too, what we can do and how we can approach that. But it's never out of the question, so to speak. So
kind of leading into that, what we talked about, you're gonna have a few in the future, people are going to be able to qualify, they're going to come up, you're going to have maybe a rotation of 10, 15, 20, whatever it is. And but how are people going to be able to qualify for this? Because there is a lot of right now, and I know this was the first 2 years, and you had some sponsor exemptions, you had some different things. How are people going to be able to qualify in the future for the Apex? Is it going to simply be just one way, or is there what's the plan?
Well, the first year out, it was based on an idea and a desire to put something very detailed together. We didn't really know how many that we could obtain at this level, going into the original design and thought process with it. But after some meetings and things, we knew that 30 to 35 would be the number for the first year. And it was obtained through 2020, 2019 AOI. It was 2020 AOI, and then we had some sponsor exemptions, as you mentioned. So that just gives strength to the capabilities of what we can do. And it's the first year. So it's all about learning, developing, planning, correcting the little bumps in the road. And, that's what the first year was about. And so we kept it very, very low key from an announcement standpoint, but very strong because we already had the anglers when we came to play. And that was all done prior to anybody knowing about Apex. And so going into it, it's going to be through the AOI.
Okay.
We've already got our base
through the Wild West, Pro-Ams. Okay.
AOI. Yeah. So we'll pull our numbers there. Now, does that mean that we may not get creative with one or two spots down the road? That we'll determine that, but that would be something very unique.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's all based on strictly AOI points.
So letting people know right off the bat, go out and get into the Wild West. If you want to make the Apex, go out and get in the Wild West.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see participation at Columbia River, because some of these guys are they're fighting for their spot and to receive an invite to the Apex Series in 2022 based on that event.
Yeah, and you said already it's going to be 10 this year. Was that what is that what you kind of
we have it will be basically be to get to 50 will be at 17.
Oh, 17. Okay, that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of places right now. That's pretty good. So to step it up from that. Now, the other question I guess that would come out of that is, what if people decide that, hey, I'd love to fish that, but I just can't afford it. I'm not gonna be able to make that. Well, are you gonna go? Are you gonna step down? You just gonna kind of like, hey, then the next person in line, the next person in line, the next person in line, or is that where you talk about maybe getting creative a little bit?
Yeah, we'll probably implement some creativity, but we'll also work down the field. I think that it's not for everybody. I've said this from the beginning. People have lives, people have family, people have different jobs. Their dedications are different. They may just be comfortable with a Pro-Am series. I totally understand. This is a commitment on many levels, and time and such off work is one of them. Time away from family, unless you're traveling with family, which I hope they do. That's another key factor. So as we branch out of California with other locations to have Apex events on, that comes into play. So yeah, it's there is a commitment level, and we will work down the field after initial invites go out the Friday or the following Monday after Columbia River, and we'll see what happens with it.
Okay. So going forward, everybody has, you start something like this, you have a, I don't want to say a dream, but you have an idea of what you'd like to see. A lot of people, I know that like the MLF right now, they just have their Bass Pro Tour, and I believe those are all non-entry. And there's been some questions about that. Is this something that you would like to see? Is it something that you would, I believe personally that once it becomes a no entry fee and it is guys are showing up because they've qualified and showed up and they're fishing it, it's a professional sport at that point. It's a professional event. Is that something you think this can go to? Is that something you even remotely think that you'd like to do?
Yeah, I believe so. The stars have to align pretty well with that. We're bringing and introducing this to the anglers who haven't had it before in the West Coast. So with that, we're going to have to obtain some good sponsors. We're going to have to be very creative with locations, community support, developing a program. It's already desirable, but now from the marketing and the media side, so that they feel, and once you hit that level of pro, a lot of the different things and doors open up. But we got to make sure that we have everything in place to do that. When we did, we've had some events where it's for Apex side, and the Pro-Ams, there's entries and such, but from the Apex side, where we did reward those guys and say, hey, we're going to test this out at Arlington, John Day. We're going to do this, and this, and everybody gets paid here and there. So, those type of things have been unique, but that's kind of it. And as far as that goes, I mean, we have a long-term goal in place, and we're just going to have to take the steps to hopefully achieve that one day.
Okay. So it's, and I realize that a lot of this whole sport, to grow, to get anywhere it's sponsor driven. We can't go forward unless we have somebody that's willing to invest and say, yeah, you know what, we think we can get a lot of marketing out of this. We think we can get this. What do we go about? How do we do, what is it that you have to do to really get this to grow that way? What is it the anglers have to do? What is it, where does this leave us? I guess is the best way to say it.
I think that's a good question for 33 of our Apex current anglers.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them already kind of understood it, but some of them did not. And they've been put into a position where now they are going, okay, I have a format, I have a platform, I'm now selling myself. So we're how would I put it? We're giving the angler the opportunity to sell themselves. We'll help them, we'll put pieces in place for them, but we're giving them an opportunity. Okay, how do you sell yourself? Okay, the format's one thing, the events are another, the on-site activation, those type of things are in place. But I want to know how so-and-so is, or I want to know how he can be, and what am I going to be as a company, and how am I going to draw myself to that individual? And we have to get the endemic, the non-endemic to understand the success and the opportunities of advertising in our industry or the outdoor marketplace from the West Coast. And a lot of them, well, I don't have anything here or there, but how many companies are basically designed and operating in the West Coast, but all their advertising is somewhere else?
Right.
So it's something that we can put together and put those little pieces in place, I think, and come up with a good solution on that.
Yeah, because I think it is difficult here. I was recently talking to another person, and we talked about, once you get east of the Rockies, basically, once you get across there, every driveway's got a bass boat in the truck,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all fishing, every weekend, and the bass fishing. But here in California, here in the West Coast, it's not as prevalent. But it is still very, very strong. Obviously it's not going to be the same strength, but it can be. And I think it has a lot of opportunities. I see a lot of the college stuff coming out. I see a lot of the different things, and there's youth in here, and there's a youth in California, and they're pushing that direction to where they're giving out scholarships now. So there is a way to go that way. So I guess we have to figure out here in the West how to support, or it's a really tough question to ask, because it's like, I don't know how we get out here. We get people to focus on just what you said. They're sending their money somewhere else, but there's plenty of money that should be spent right here.
Yeah. And I think I should just, mention the Apex initially was designed and thought up for the growth of the West Coast. And so when you brought your question up about, do you feel that this could go? Yeah, it could go anywhere, but we are dedicated to the West Coast. And so that's our focus. That's what Apex is. It's to build the West Coast, which has never really been done. It's a strong challenge. We accept it. We're ready to make it happen. It's going to take a lot of people playing in our world to make it really, really successful. So we'll all have a piece to play here.
Yeah, I think a lot of that starts with with our local media too. With a lot of this stuff coming on, conversations I've had about, when the Bassmasters did come out here to the Delta, and our local news channels are picking it up, and they're like, oh, look at all the pretty shiny boats. They got lights on them. Oh, aren't those nice? They knew not one single person. They didn't know a name. Right. They didn't know anything. But you go, like I said, you go back to the South, and these guys are, it's as big as football some days. These guys are, it's big. We got to grow that. We got to figure that out here and get that to where we become something desirable. How is it that how do we do that? What do you think, as far as how do we make this thing a bigger splash here? Do you think it can be done as far as growing the sport?
I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. I would say that I was just at the Bassmaster Classic in Fort Worth. I was there for a day, and Rick Pierce and I were visiting quite a bit with Bass Cat and such. And that whole mindset, the presentation there at the Bassmaster Classic takes unique pieces to fall in place. The facilities and the proximity to water and the community support and the sponsors that are driven, and then you have the show, the vendors, the sponsors involved, the setup, the whole thing. And we have parts and pieces of those type of things in the West Coast already. We have designated dates for particular shows when we get through this whole COVID situation. All those things are now opening back up, and it provides those shows to come back. But to bring it all together and to make these things work, it can be done. We have to, like I said, we're very happy to be a part of some of the Apex Anglers' beginnings, where they're becoming a name, and I think with some of our social media outlets and such, it's helping drive that. So I think it all has to align quite evenly, but it's very doable.
All right. Well, I mean, that's all, it's going to take some work and take some effort, and I hope that we can get there. And I'd love to see, I've been in this sport a long time too. And it's like, I'd love to see it grow the way it's growing. I'm happy to see the Apex coming along. I'm happy to see, I was one of the, I've been fishing the Wild West for a while. I was really happy to see that it got, you guys picked it up and just ran with it. I mean, it was amazing to see where it went and how quickly it turned and started going in what I would consider a great direction. Being a part of the Wild West, being a part of the Wild West Pro-Ams, that first major push back, and it was a 280 boat field at Shasta. And
yeah,
I mean, I think everybody kind of stepped back and went, oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was a big, you guys set the tone, and it still draws. I mean, I was trying to remember what the first one was this year. It was over 180, 190, right in that range, right?
Yeah, that was, we had 150 something at the Pro-Am, and we had 180 something at the team. But yeah, that Shasta is always a tremendous draw. It's a great time of year. We appreciate and been successful with participation there since the inception, but it's just built each year. And things happen, life happens. So we have to understand that, there's particular things to plan for if lake locations or people have lives and things happen. So we have, so it's good to plan and be prepared to bring in new participation as well as secure the consistent current participation.
Yeah, well, we had a little bit to go through it the last couple of years, basically. I mean, we've had some hurdles. Everybody's had hurdles to go through. Everybody's had hurdles to jump with. A lot of the circuits out there took a major, had to take a major hit, take a step back to regroup and redo it. But I got to say, honestly, you guys did it with great stride. It came in. It seemed, pretty flawless. I know that you guys didn't get hit as bad because of the our representative showing up, but at the same time, the next group coming in got hit pretty hard because he wasn't around.
Yeah, well, that was a unique opportunity. That was kind of like code red, land on the in the airport, get up to Shasta, and we go right into meetings to make something happen. And hats off to Congressman Lamalfa and his representative team to help make that work. And it's nice when we can keep politics out of things, but sometimes when politics tries to drive particular things, you got to hit back with politics. So
right,
that's kind of how things happen around here once in a while.
Yeah, that was definitely a big punch, because I'll tell you what, like you said, the next group coming in, they didn't get so lucky, but it's we've got, I can't even say how much it's just, we get COVID. We get all the, then we get out of COVID a little bit, and it's like, okay, let's have our tournaments again. We can do that. And now you've got water issues that we're going to be dealing with for at least a year going into, we're always going to get the rain in. Well, I say we're always going to get the rain in January, but we don't always, I guess. This year we sure didn't get, we got a few days, but it's, yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that the West is going to be this low on water for a while, and this is something that we're going to have to deal with next. So
Yeah.
but yeah, so going in, I mean, I think we've really kind of touched a lot on what we had. Is there anything else you really want to bring out here to about what we can do, or how we can draw, or how we can, what you need from the other anglers out there? What do you think about the the future out here, and what we're going through?
I'm pretty confident in our future. I know that but we also have to plan and prepare. There's so many trends that seem to go through, how would I say, the minds of youth, and we want to make sure that it's focused on, driven on a lot of good things, and a lot of opportunities there. And that's why the youth series seemed to be the right time, specifically with some history and backing of support and structure, so that we can implement it further. And I think that's going to be a strong point moving forward. We saw the growth of Luke Johns, an apex angler. I mean, he goes from participating in college, and that's another thing too. I'm not going to try to get off on topic there, but Luke goes through college, then he goes right into the pro-ams, and then boom, has success. And he's a good stick. He's a good kid, and then he goes right into apex based on qualifications. So we're happy to have him. He's very good. He's the future of our sport in a lot of ways. College, there's so many restrictions now with universities limiting the branding and so on and so forth, and putting their kids in a position where they have to basically choose education or brand recognition through a tournament. So they have to go kind of incognito in a lot of ways. And that's why we blended it in with the teams this year. And we had a great sponsor in Bridgeford who came up and said, hey, we'll help out with some of that entry fee for each college team so we can keep them engaged. And, that was tremendous opportunity there, because there's so many, especially in California, that said, hey, no representation for colleges during COVID. And, don't do that, or whatever the case may be, or you can't use this. And it handicapped the kids quite a bit. So, that's something that we hope that we'll, get back on track, especially out West. And we'll be happy to continue with that.
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything about that. As far, they just said no letting teams fish, huh?
Well, they didn't. Well, you could fish, but you can't fish based on wearing the school colors and so on and so forth, because it's group activities and such.
So hopefully we're kind of out of that now, and going back to.
And the good thing was, I mean, there's nothing good that became of the experiences that COVID brought upon us all. I mean, regardless of anything, we've all lost somebody or a family member and such, but I think it gave us an opportunity to take some good parts and pieces that we had to implement as an organization,
right? And
those things will be long-term parts of our structure. There's some things that we're like, well, I never want to use that again, or that was horrible. We can't wait till we get, particularly getting back into meeting with pre-tournament meetings.
Right.
Coming together as a group, the camaraderie that's built there, the understanding from an angler's perspective of the rules, the event, where to go, any particular questions. It kind of gets lost sometimes. So specifically having to go to a virtual deal all the time. So we look forward to get back to that.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said with that, but yeah.
Oh, definitely. I mean, hopping on even when we had just the team events, and just coming in and give us the rules, giving us the things that we're going to look at for, and maybe you jumped on a little later. I wasn't in a place where I had good signal. I had to wait till I got somewhere where I had good signal, and hoping I got it, and hoping I did this and that. But like you say, now all of a sudden you can go back, you got some other things coming up. But I think this format actually we're on right now actually has actually been really nice to figure out. It has helped. It does allow me, you're in Arizona right now, I'm up in Northern California. We can have this meeting. We can discuss about this wonderful sport we're in. And, we can do that you know, and it's so I think that was a positive that's come out of this, and I think
Yeah.
it's going to come out with some of it. You know, this has allowed a lot of people to, and I think this will allow, you know, the fishing world to kind of come together all over the place and see what's going on out here. You know, social media has its place in all of this. And I see a lot of the new, like you talk about with Tourney X, that thing was amazing. You know, it was great for people to be able to watch that. Great for people to be able to be a part of. Yeah, I'm sitting at work, I'm on my computer, but up in the corner, I've got this little thing going. And I think that was, you know, I think that was super good. You
Yeah.
know, and you can kind of stay in touch, and it maybe gives people a break from, you know, the monotonous of the day. And so, yeah, I think there's some, like you said, I think there's some good things that came out of COVID. I think there'll be some bad things that always that have come out of it. And there'll be some politics that we hopefully get rid of.
Yeah.
You know, so
Ain't that the truth? Yeah.
yeah, next year should be a more, you know, I'm definitely looking forward to it myself. And it's one of those things that I think this is you know, everything should be a little bit closer to normal next year, and we just hope that we're not fishing in puddles. So,
Hey, it's either a canal or
yeah,
or something, right? Yeah.
Before we break off, there was one thing that popped up way back in there that I wanted to ask about, because it's become this huge that we're talking about social media, is that kayak series. Kayak fishing has absolutely blown up. How have you guys seen it, and what's been your response? I mean, what's been the response to, I've kind of watched some of it, I know a couple of guys are in it, but how has it been? Pretty positive that people are involved?
Yeah, it's very unique. I've been very grateful to kind of go on that trail and understand more of that world that I didn't. We had some great people that work with me, and Steve Melander and Tim Arthur and many others, and the anglers. It was very good during COVID.
Right.
Well, our numbers though, when we first released the announcements for the kayak series, we had 112 committed at every event, and that was the first year. And you know, then COVID came knocking at the door and opened it with a big bang, and we were able to average in the 74 to 77, I believe, which I felt was pretty strong given all the circumstances that came into play.
That's really strong.
Yeah, and so that's, you know, I was able to get out to finally meet the guys in the kayak series at the championship at Clear Lake last year. Was able to meet with them at this first Clear Lake event that we had with kayak after the Delta, and so I really appreciate them. They've got a great opportunity here, and the camaraderie that they've already built amongst themselves seems to be spreading pretty good. So I feel like with this year, our numbers have been pretty good. I mean, we're averaging around that 80, 81 mark. So the numbers are up, and you know, I only see it getting bigger and better, and we want to make that along with, and we made the announcement kind of subtly out there at the Clear Lake event when we were partnering up with some other organizations in that announcement, but with the Kayak Pro Tour.
Yeah.
And so when that comes into play, and those guys understand that it's just another opportunity and basically a property of Wild West that we can bring to our customer base.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I'm going to propose this right now. The champion of the Apex, the champion of the kayak, and the champion of the high school division all have to go to a tournament and fish together.
You'd be, hey,
let's see who's going to win.
I would actually take you up on that as a one-off deal. I think it'd be very entertaining. You'd want to capture everything in real time. And
but they have to all fish out of the other person's boat.
Well, why don't we just
you have to make it an even play?
Yeah.
You got to take the guy out of the bass boat. You got to put him in a kayak, and then you get
yeah, that's it.
So
it would be very interesting, but I think we'd be surprised sometimes. There's a lot of talented sticks out there.
I think there's a lot of youth out there that could probably turn a lot of heads if they were coming out of that youth division and they were of age and they made the championship and they won, and they go up and it's like, well, now you got to go fish against the Apex champion. You got to fish against the pro kayak champion. And It might be a little intimidating at first, but I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody step up, especially if you put especially if you put it on a water, on a waterway that wasn't gave anybody any kind of, some little lake in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I've seen a few places in California. It's like, how would we get a boat and trailer down there? Because if we can, that would be really interesting. So yeah.
I've got one right up here, Scotts Flat Lake. You can have a good time. Bunch of small.
All right.
But well, Jeremy, I want to thank you tonight for coming on. I really appreciate it. I am always trying to get as much information out there to the anglers as I can. And, I think you answered a bunch of good questions, and I think that this should be something very positive and going forward. And I give you, great. I really think you've done an amazing job with this sport and with Wild West, with the pro-ams, the pro teams, and now the Apex. And, I'm sure the youth and the kayak are all going to be there. The way it's been going, you've been doing a heck of a job. I really appreciate everything you do for us out here. And I do hope that this goes to as far as you think it can.
Well, I look forward to it. It takes a lot of moving parts and pieces, and I have a tremendous supporting staff behind the scenes. I applaud those guys every day. It does me proud to work with those guys. So that's it in a nutshell. We're here to make the West Coast work.
Well, good. Because I think we need it. I think we deserve it.
Yep, I would say so.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. This was a good show tonight. I really appreciate you coming on to the new podcast. This is our third episode, but my first. So thanks for doing it, coming on board. And for you watching the video right now, thanks for tuning in here also. This was a good show, and I really appreciate Jeremy for coming on. Thanks again, Wired for Bass and the BAM Pod. So thanks again. You have a good night.
All right. Thank you, sir.